everyone, welcome to Modern Application Development Part 2. Now, in terms of our overall journey through the basics of JavaScript, we are mostly done with all the concepts that we want to look at. There's one which is not really a JavaScript concept as such, but is something that is very useful in terms of transferring data around, right? We have already sort of encountered this in the earlier Modern Application Development Part 1 course. And essentially this is JSON, right? JavaScript object notation. And what do we mean by object notation? Basically means that we want to be able to sort of move objects around, right? We want to be able to transfer an object in some text format from one place to another, right? Now, JSON was sort of informally put together as just some kind of a text-based representation of what a JavaScript object looks like internally. It was used extensively, and the interesting thing about it now is that this notation has been declared to be frozen, okay? And that's actually a very interesting decision that has been taken. Effectively what they said is, even if there are problems, and there are, for example, certain complaints such as maybe one particular notation should have been done in a slightly different way in JSON, the creators of the JSON spec basically said, no, we are not going to change it. If it's a problem, it remains a problem, right? At some point, maybe we'll have to replace JSON with something else, but for most use cases, it is good enough, and we will just stick with that, because that way, you can be sure that your APIs never change. In the case of JavaScript, it is used through the so-called JSON API, right? And the JSON API basically makes one namespace, a global namespace object called JSON, available to your scripts, okay? So you can straight away use json.certain functions. And the main methods that we are interested in are two of them. One of them is json.stringify, which basically takes an object and converts it into a string. And the other is parse, which takes a string and can convert it back to an object. It does not directly do so, but at least it parses it into something which can then be used in order to construct an object, okay? So why are we saying stringify rather than, write to file or write to output or something of that sort? Because very often JSON strings, you want to create that string not in order to write it into a file, but maybe directly to send it out over a network, right? So it may never actually make it into an actual file somewhere on disk. So stringify just takes care of that and says, look, what we are primarily interested in is making it a string. That's what we are going to focus on. Okay, now we are going to take a look at how JSON can be used in order to implement both the stringify and the parse, right? So you recall the example that we used in order to implement classes, right? So we had this class cat that extends the other class called animal, right? And we said that, it has a constructor, it then that which in turn calls the super, that is the parent constructor, and it also sets the sound of the cat to be meow. We created a new cat and we were able to log, c.describe, and we got this. Now let's look at where JSON comes into the picture, right? What we are going to do here is essentially use the JSON API in order to stringify C, okay? So what does stringify C mean? It basically means that we are going to take the object C, which in this case we know is a cat, and convert it into a string, which will basically be put into this value P, okay? And as a result of that, let's look at two things. One is we want to look at console.log what C looks like, and we will also look at what console.log P is going to look like. Okay, and if we run this, we see that, of course, there are a few other console.logs up there, right? But let me get rid of some of those to make things a bit clearer. So when we run this, what we'll find is, of course, the first console log is going to be the c.describe, which says Tom makes a sound meow. We already know where that came from. That came from the describe method corresponding to animal. Now I also log out console.log c, and what that does is that actually puts out this name cat, and then it says name : Tom, sound : meow, right? And I also print out what it looks like once it has been stringified. In this case, now notice a couple of things. One is that the parameters, right? So the object literals name and sound, which were just raw literals over there, have now been enclosed within quotes. They have been sort of explicitly made strings. The name also, Tom and Meow, have now been enclosed within double quotes. All of this has basically made it standardized. Plus, it has removed any unnecessary white space, right? So spaces, etc., have been removed from here. That's not absolutely essential, but it's, why waste space, right? When you're just going to use this in order to send it to another machine or another program. So this is good. Basically, what it's telling us is that there is a clean way by which I could take an object and convert it into a unique string, which is something that could then be passed around. But the interesting question becomes, okay, now how do I get back from there to the object, right? Unfortunately, it's not that trivial, because after all, if you look at what this P contains, right, it doesn't tell you about what kind of object it is. It doesn't tell you anything except the parameters themselves, right? So name is Tom, sound is Meow. Was it a dog? Was it a cat? Was it, just a dictionary, right? Nothing, right? You don't even know that there is such a class as cat associated with this JSON string. Which means that if I want to be able to go back from the string to the object, I need something in the class cat itself, right? And that is where this static from JSON function or method comes from. It's a static method because it is a class level method. It's not something that is there for each individual object, right? It's a class level method that can directly be invoked as cat.fromJSON. Okay. And what it does is that whenever I have a JSON string, or rather a parsed JSON object, I don't give it the JSON string, I give it the JSON object in this case. I could do the other way. I could also choose to just give it a string and call the json.parse inside this. But I've decided that, I'll parse it first and then give the object directly to this. And what it says is that, it will create a new cat with whatever is this object's name, and set the sound to be the sound that was there in that object. Okay. Now, if you had decided not to do this second step, which was c.sound equal to o.sound, because you created it as a new cat in any case, right, it would have worked. It would still have got meow as the correct result. And you would pretty much have just ignored the fact that the meow was fed into you from the JSON string, right? Because after all, cats can only say meow, right? That ultimately means that there is some choice left to you in terms of how you would do it, the execution of the from JSON, or how you write that JSON interpreter. So let's see how that works in practice, right? What I'm going to do is I'm creating a new variable cc, and I'm saying I'm going to call cat.fromJSON. Remember what I said about fromJSON being a static method and therefore a class level method and not an object method. I don't have to create a new cat before I call fromJSON. I can call cat.fromJSON. And what should I give that as input? I have to give it an object, right? A parsed object. And how do I get that object? I basically json.parse this p, this string that was created by stringifying the other object in the first place. Okay, so p was created by stringifying the variable c. That in turn gets parsed back into an object, but just an object, a dictionary. That is in turn fed into the fromJSON static method corresponding to the cat class. What does that method return? It returns a new cat, which is assigned into the variable cc. And when I do console.log cc.describe, what will I get? I should see that I have come back with Tom makes a sound meow. Okay. So JSON, in other words, has its roots in JavaScript, obviously, right, given the name, but has been used in places that go well beyond JavaScript. It's even used as a generic sort of format for describing various notation and so on. The reason it's been so successful is simply the fact that, it's easy to describe and sort of very natural, right? Even once you sort of do some indentation and so on, it's very easy to read. So it is used well beyond what is there in JavaScript, but of course it plays very well with JavaScript by itself, and therefore is going to be a very useful tool for us when we are trying to transfer data back and forth between different parts of a system.